Today I want to share with you how I like to make a roast chicken in a cast iron skillet. And this is a perfect recipe to begin with if you're new to cooking traditional foods, because not only will you have a wonderful meal to feed yourself, your family, and your friends, you'll also have the makings of your first batch of chicken bone broth. You'll have the carcass left over from your chicken and the scraps left over from cleaning up your vegetables. And together, they're going to make a wonderful bone broth. Hi sweet friends, I'm Mary and welcome to Mary's Nest, where I teach traditional cooking skills for making nutrient-dense foods like bone broth, sourdough, ferments, and more. So if you enjoy learning about those things, consider subscribing to my channel and don't forget to click on the little notification bell below. That'll let you know every time I upload a new video. Now I've got a pretty large chicken here, so I'm going to use a 12-inch cast iron skillet. If your chicken's a little smaller, you can use a 10-inch cast iron skillet. But if you don't have a cast iron skillet, don't worry. You can use a baking sheet or a roasting pan, whatever you have. Now this couldn't be easier. All you want to do is prepare some vegetables, and I've got some very reasonably priced vegetables. I've got some carrots, some onions, and some potatoes. And I've cut these potatoes up. I've just quartered them. I've cut them in half and then quartered them. I've just got them soaking in some salted water so they won't discolor. And the first thing that I like to do is take my carrots, and I've got about 6 carrots here, and this is very flexible. This is not written in stone. If you're just serving 2 people and you want less, or more people and you want more, you can easily adjust this. But I've got 6 carrots here, and what I've done is just cut them into thirds, and where they were thick, I just then split them. And I'm going to basically use these carrots as the rack in my cast iron skillet. Now if you're doing this in a roasting pan or a baking sheet, you can do the same thing, and just you make the carrots serve as your rack. Now the next thing I like to do is just take some salt and sprinkle it into the cavity of the chicken. And I've just got some salt here. It's about a teaspoon, and that's all I'm going to do. Just sprinkle that right in, and I've just taken it separate from my salt decanter so I don't cross-contaminate. Then I'm going to lift up my chicken and just put it right on top of the carrots. Now, I have not washed this chicken. I took it out of the wrapper and I put it on my plate here to get ready to cook. If you want to wash your chicken, you certainly can. Here in the United States, either the Food and Drug Administration or the U.S. Department of Agriculture, oh, that's my ice maker, says not to wash your chickens because it can spread the salmonella around your sink and area and whatnot, and you may not be able to clean it well. But that's your personal choice. But if you say, no, I'm going to still wash my chicken, that's fine. You certainly can do that if you want. I just wanted to let you know what the new regulations are. And the reason that they made these regulations was, as I said, they feel you might spread the salmonella around your sink and not be able to clean it all thoroughly. And they say any possible contamination or whatever that's in the chicken that you think you might be washing off will be cooked off in the heat. So you decide what you're most comfortable doing. But I did not wash this chicken. The next thing I like to do is take these little wing tips and just tuck them under the body of the chicken. And that keeps them from sticking up and burning. Now I'm going to go wash my hands and get some kitchen string, and we'll tie up the legs. I'm just going to take about an 18-inch or so piece of twine. And I know some of you have asked me that you've seen me use this in other videos where I've made chicken, and I'll be sure to put a link to that twine dispenser in the description below. I just found it on Amazon, but all the kitchen stores have them too. But I'll be sure to put a description below, in the description below. Now, all I do is pick up the legs. I don't truss the chicken. I just tie up the legs to help keep them together and have everything cook a little more evenly. But with the wings tucked under and the legs tied up, that's perfect. I don't feel it's really necessary to get into trussing, and that can be kind of complicated. Alrighty, so I've got the legs tied, and now we'll add in the rest of the veggies. Now I'm going to get ready to just put the onions all around, and these are just plain yellow onions that I've quartered, and I've left the root in because it holds them together, and it's just so nice when you go to serve it, the person on their plate can have the whole onion that's been roasted in these delicious chicken juices. And I always make sure I have a lot. My husband loves these. So we'll just work these all around best we can, and then we'll move on to the potatoes. And now we'll just take our little potato pieces and wedge them in wherever we can find room. The next thing you want to do is take a half a stick of melted butter. It's 1/4 cup. And we just want to pour some on top of the chicken here and then start basting it or brushing it all around to get it in all the nooks and crannies. And then we also want to take some of the butter and just kind of drizzle it around on top of all of our onions, and it'll sink down to the carrots and our potatoes, and we'll do the same. Once we get this all over, we'll just take our brush and make sure that we've got everything brushed nicely with this melted butter. This is going to be delicious. The next thing you want to do with clean hands is just go into your salt dispenser, your shaker, if you've got a salt shaker, or a little salt like this. I'm using some sea salt, and you just want to go all around and put some nice salt on top of the veggies and on top of your chicken. And really, it's just to your liking. I'm probably going to use a little more than a tablespoon. Not a tablespoon, a teaspoon, a little more than a teaspoon. And then next, I like to put a couple of good twists of freshly cracked black pepper and get some on the vegetables, the onions and the carrots and the potatoes, and all on top of the chicken. Now I'm going to keep this very simple and just do salt and pepper, but if you want, at this point, you can also sprinkle on some dried herbs or some crushed red peppers for a little spice, whatever you like. Now I've preheated my oven to 425 degrees Fahrenheit. Now I'm going to put the chicken into that hot oven, but once I close the door, I'm going to lower the heat to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. Now this is about a 4-pound chicken, so at 375 degrees Fahrenheit, this is probably going to take about an hour and 45 minutes to roast. Now if your chicken's a little smaller, it'll take a little less. If your chicken's a little bigger, it'll take a little more. Now I always recommend that you check your chicken halfway through and see how well it's browning. If it looks like it's very well browned and you don't want it to brown anymore, you can just tent it with a piece of aluminum foil and allow it to continue cooking. If it's not fully browned, then you can just leave it uncovered. Now you can know that your chicken is done in 2 ways. One, if you have a meat thermometer, that's the perfect situation because you can know exactly what the internal temperature is, and you would stick it down into the thickest part of the thigh, not touching the bone, and you would want it to register at the proper temperature for a cooked chicken. Now, there are some differences on this. Again, I'm in the United States, and our USDA and FDA, so on and so forth, they say that a chicken is considered cooked at 165 degrees Fahrenheit. Now that said, I cook my chicken a little longer than that. And the reason is, if you ever shop here in the United States at a Costco and you buy a raw chicken, it says on the cover to roast to 185 degrees. And the reason is, I gather that when they would sell their pre-cooked chickens at 165 degrees, there were some problems with that, and so they always recommend now having the chicken cooked to 185 degrees internal temperature, and that's what I like to do. But really, it is personal choice. As I said, the government here in the United States says 165 degrees Fahrenheit is fine, but the store, Costco, says 185 degrees. So it's really up to you. Now, all of that aside, if you don't have a meat thermometer and you really don't know, whether the chicken is cooked or not, there's an easy way, just a plain old-fashioned way to know that how it's done. And that's by shaking the leg, seeing if some of the leg meat has cooked away from the bone, and if when you make a little slice, maybe right here, where the leg joins the breast, and the juices run clear, then it's done. If the juices look pink, it's not done. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get this into the oven, and when it's ready, I'll show you the finished product. Well, this chicken is all done. It's 185 degrees Fahrenheit inside, and so I'm just going to loosen this string and discard this, and we'll take a slice and give it a taste. Well, I got a little of everything. The meat looks still beautifully moist. The skin looks wonderfully crunchy and crispy, and we'll give it a taste. That's delicious. That is so good. The breast meat is beautifully moist and flavorful, and the skin is so delightfully crispy. I love that. And if you're not a fan of onions, try onions this way because they come so sweet and tender. You're really going to enjoy it. Now you've got this wonderful chicken dinner, And when you're done with it, you've got the carcass and your vegetable scraps that you use to prepare the vegetables in here to make bone broth. If you'd like to learn more about traditional cooking, be sure to subscribe to my channel and then click on this video over here where I show you how to make a gelatinous chicken bone broth. And I'll see you over there in my Texas Hill Country kitchen. Love and God bless.